The strength is in the returning. The strength is not in the perfection. The strength is in the commitment to coming back to center again and again and again.
Hey everyone, I'm Thais Sky. Welcome to Reclaim, a podcast for women by women on conversations that matter. Hello everybody, Thais Sky here. Welcome to Reclaim, the podcast. I am back this week to our regularly scheduled program with a beautiful interview with Sarah Sapora. I cannot wait to get into that with you, but before that happens, I have a couple things to share with you. First off, all of you who support me on Patreon, holy shit, y'all are like the raddest people. I had a community call last week, as I do every month for those who support my Patreon, which, you can do if you're listening for like as little as $1 a month. It really helps the podcast. It helps to sustain it. All the money goes straight back into creating the best experience for you. Anyway, we had a community call last week and I'm just continually touched by how you all show up in your lives, by how committed you are to sisterhood and to coming together in community and to supporting one another. And I'm just radically inspired by all of you. So thank you for those of you who support my Patreon. I really appreciate it. I love that you come into my community, into my community calls. I mean, these calls leave me feeling so inspired by the world and by hope, right? Like I feel inspired by hope. Like it's like an infusion of hope. It's just the best thing. So thank you. Other really important notice that I would like to put out there. Those of you who may be interested in joining my signature 4-month program, Worthy Women Rise, well, applications are due today, Tuesday, August 28th at 9 p.m. So if you are thinking about joining, if the idea of learning more about how to navigate your worthiness wound in a way that's not so debilitating, if you're ready to overcome some of your deeper insecurities and inadequacies and truly rise up and be more self-expressed and feel more confident in your body, feeling more confident in money, feeling more confident in some of the relationship challenges that you've experienced, or particularly among, your family and intimate partnership, if you're ready just to feel more confident in your life, I highly recommend that you check out Worthy Women Rise. You can go to worthywomenrise.com and there's a form there for you to apply. I do these applications because I want to make sure that I curate like a really special group of people who are ready to do this brave work. Oh, there goes the AC. I'm currently staying in a beautiful, beautiful space that has AC, which is very rare here in Los Angeles, but it does mean it has a little background noise. I hope you can forgive me. I want to stay cool. It's been hot here the past few weeks, and the AC really changes the game. Anyway, if you are interested in joining Worthy Women Rise, I recommend you checking that out and submitting your application. Spaces are filling up, and I'm really excited about it. This is my 5th time running this program, and every single time I've run it, it's just gotten better and better. If you have never explored shadows before, like a shadow work, this is a great place to begin. And what's amazing is the transformation that happens when we can really cultivate space to be with all of who we are. I know that some of our trepidations when we're signing up for these group, things is, I'm excited now, but I don't know if I can keep the momentum, or I don't know if I have enough stuff to work through, or I don't know if I'm going to really show up for this because I tend to hide. If that's where you're at, I hear that. I hear you. And as I've been, my response has been, bring that into the group. Share that in the group, right? Like any insecurity that you have, bring that in. There is no insecurity that is too small or too inadequate, because any insecurity that we have, honestly, is the key. It's the gift. It's the portal. It's the arrows into our deeper healing. Like, do not brush away your inadequacies because they're stupid or you should get over it or it's not a big deal. Anything and everything can be a portal to our awakening if we allow it. So if you're interested in Worthy Women Rise, go to worthywomenrise.com. You can also go to the show notes and it's there, and you can learn more about the program. Applications must be in tonight. Okay? Other thing, y'all have really liked my single episodes, which really touches my heart because I was a little talking about insecurities. I was a little insecure about doing them. I have a lot of thoughts. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I've been speaking and teaching for 6 years now, and I have a lot of thoughts. And I recognize through the feedback that you all have been giving me that I'm not featuring that enough in my podcast. And that you all really like to hear me share my thoughts, not just interviews. So I heard you loud and clear. I so appreciate every single one of you who've reached out and shared how much the Reclaiming Worth series has touched you in a meaningful way. I so appreciate that. And I promise moving forward, I will be doing more single-sodes where it's just me. And that requires more production value. That requires more time. So if you're enjoying it, if you enjoyed the You're Waking Up to Your White Privilege Now What series, which another part is coming out soon, if you enjoyed the Reclaiming Worth series, all of this consumption of amazing content, if you're enjoying it, please consider supporting through Patreon. Okay? What else? As I shared in my Reclaiming Worth series, right now I'm a little nomadic. And I spent the weekend in SLO in San Luis Obispo, Central Coast, California. Fell in love. Of course I did. How can anyone not love Central Coast, California? How can anyone not love the entire coast of California? And having, being a little bit nomadic and not having safety and security in the way that is most basic and most, urgent for us as humans has taught me a lot about the value of trust. It seems like oftentimes in our lives that we want everything to be put together before we take the leap. Like we have to feel ready before we take any sort of leap or before we put ourselves out there. And I'm not in a position right now where I can put things together because so many things are changing and I can't put things together. I can't plan things out in advance the way I usually do. If you want dinner with me, you're going to have to plan it 2 weeks in advance, right? Because I'm so organized in my scheduling. But for this thing, I have to just trust. And I found that something always comes through. Even if it's at the last minute, it always comes through. But it wouldn't come through if I had planned it. I really have to lean into this trust that things are going to be okay, that we are more supported than we think we are. And in order for us to trust or to be supported, to be in that trust, we have to be willing to be vulnerable and share with people what we need. And that's so difficult for us. The way that where I'm currently staying, how it all came through is I said something in an offhanded comment. I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking for a place from Monday to Thursday. And she's like, oh, I have an empty bedroom. You can stay here. But I had to say that first, right? I had to say, oh, this is what I need. This is what I'm looking for. And how often do we not do that? Because we're scared of what other people are going to think. Because we are scared of, the vulnerability of putting ourselves out there. If we want life to trust us, we have to trust life. And the way we do that is by asking for what we need and then surrendering. And I know that this can sound a little frou-woo, and I know that it can sound difficult to do. Trust me, I'm in it. I'm in that fire right now. And let me tell you, support is always available for those who ask for it. It's there. So if you're in a place where you're in a transition or you really want something different in your life and you're not sure how to get it, you're going to have to take that first step. You're going to have to do it. If you want a different financial situation, if you want a different living situation, you're going to have to take that first step. Even if you don't feel ready, even if you don't know what's next after that first step, you've got to take a step. You can't wait until you're ready. There is no such thing. Readiness is an illusion. I always like to think about, I don't always like to think about, that's a wrong expression. I tend to think about this story when I'm talking about trust or thinking about trust is the mama duck, when she wants her little ducklings to follow her, she doesn't get them all into a line first and then move forward. She just starts walking and they follow or they get the fuck lost, right? So they've got to just move. It's kind of like the same thing. Life is waiting for our move. It will respond to us. But we've got to go first. We got to lead the charge. We got to step into our bravery, into our resilience that is there. It is available for all of us. None of us are beyond this. We all have it inside of us, and we may have forgotten it. Sure. It may be lost. Sure. We may not see it. Sure. But it is there. Take the first step, and then take the second step. And pretty soon you'll find that things will come together. Trust it. Trust in yourself. Trust in your ability to not let yourself down. At least that's what I've been telling myself every single day. So maybe this whole thing is just a big shout out to myself, and hopefully it resonates with you. But I'm seeing it to really land true for me right now. This is what I've been needing to hear. So maybe you need to hear it as well. Okay, let's bring on Sarah Sapora. Sarah Sapora is someone who I really respect on the social media. I mean, I respect her, and I found her on social media, and I connected with her through a mutual friend, and I am just obsessed with this woman and the energy that she brings into the world. And so here's her bio. Sarah Sapora loves cowboy boots, strength training, and is a certified KRI Kundalini yoga teacher. She is a yoga on a wellness journey, a self-love mentor, and the founder of the Body and Love Workshop, a size-inclusive personal growth and holistic wellness workshop. Her motto, Rise the Fuck Up, reminds us that change is possible at any age, weight, or point in our life. And you can learn more about Sarah by going to her Instagram at Sarah Sapora. You can also go to her website, sarahsapora.com. Sarah keeps it real, and she really shares about the ins and outs of what it's like to navigate her life in a very visible way. And so that's what we talk about in this episode. We talk about self-love for any body, right? Not just a heteronormative skinny body. We talk about aging. And then, we dive into taking up space and being more visible within our marginalized identities. And what does that mean? So as you're listening to this, I want you to be thinking about how your self-love may or may not extend towards your marginalized identities, right? By marginalized identities, I mean the identities that we carry that are not normal, quote unquote, for our society, that is not standard, that is not the norm, I should say, not normal, not the norm in our society. So being a woman is not the norm because our society is very patriarchal, right? So wherever we carry your marginalized identities, I want you to be really thinking about it today in this podcast and asking yourself, like, how am I extending compassion and tenderness to that identity? You know, how am I making sure that I'm seeking support and love? And how am I staying invisible in that identity because of my fears about the world and what it means to be in that identity? Hi, Sarah. Welcome to Reclaim the Podcast. I am so grateful that you're here with me today.
This is amazing, and I've only been talking to you for like 2 minutes, and already I kind of like just want to hug your energy. Like if I could reach through the podcast and grab you and be like, "Hey!" I'm a big hugger-outer, so thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
My gosh, I love your work. I love the message that you're putting out into the world. What you're doing is you're taking a really beautiful stand, and you're being unapologetic in that. And I'm just so excited to be talking with you right now. It is such an honor.
Thank you. Well, I would say likewise. You know, there are a lot of people out there who are doing the work, and I think they do it with various degrees of integrity and grace and articulation, and I hold your work in very high esteem. So
thank you.
I'm not going to say like I feel like I've kind of made it, you know, but like I'm definitely kind of geeked to be talking to you. And just an FYI, before we began, you asked me if there's anything that's like off the subject, and I was like, no, girl, you personally could ask me anything, and I would be like, all right, let's have the conversation. So yeah,
awesome. I love it.
Here for this. Yeah,
I love it. So for people who may not be familiar with you and your work,
yes,
share a little bit about it.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah. I struggle with what to call myself, but I've settled on self-love mentor and a wellness advocate. I'm also a newly minted Kundalini yoga teacher, which I'm super excited about. But my biggest passion in life is showing a inclusive audience of women that they are capable of creating change in their life, no matter how much we weigh, no matter how, fucked up we feel we were yesterday, no matter how old we are, at any point in time in our life, we can create change in our life to create a happier and healthier life from the inside out if we do that from a place of self-love. And for those of you who may be listening, I am a plus size woman. I have been on my own wellness journey, and I have a very passionate spot to serve other women who are also persons of size or have kind of body journeys of their own, to show them that they can create their greater life from the inside out, focusing less on numbers on a scale and more on creating the way you want to feel in life. So in addition to do that, I also run a size inclusive personal growth workshop. So basically, I don't know, I consider myself here to serve and sing karaoke and wear cowboy boots and have a good time and laugh and try and love my life and hold a container of safe space for those who also want to do that and feel a little bit stuck in their ability to do so.
I love it. I feel like the two things that are so hard for us to de-shame or unshame as women is sex and our body.
Yeah, and they're also very related, by the way.
Absolutely.
Like, because I agree. And I talk very authentically in the communities and online about my journey, and sex and appreciation of my body and understanding of my body from a sexual perspective has played a huge part in my self-love and self-worth journey. And I think that, the more we talk about this stuff, the more we unpackage it and the more we remove shame and we just say, this is such a shared common experience. But I agree. Those are two things that we definitely, from a cultural perspective, have a big discomfort of talking about.
Yeah, not only a big discomfort, but such a skewed perspective on what it's supposed to look like.
Yes.
I've had so many conversations about that. Sex is supposed to, quote unquote, according to movies and TV, look this way.
Yeah.
And so if we experience anything outside of this very small, narrow-minded way, we feel like there's something wrong. And the same is to be said about how our body looks. I feel like there's right now like one representation of what a woman is supposed to look like. And it's slowly evolving, right? It went from being like you look like a 12-year-old girl to now it's you have these ridiculously large butts,
and curves,
Yes.
And curves as long as they're where they should be, right?
Exactly. And if you don't look like that, you're expected to be dieting, exercising, eating properly. These are now seen as like the right things to do.
Yeah. You're 100% correct. And even in the plus size community, there is acceptable plus size and not acceptable, quote unquote, plus size, and I think that one of the things that's really interesting about all of this is that we cannot even blame it on the media, and we cannot blame it on social media. It's I don't know, I just sort of flabbergasted myself with pausing because I had something brilliant.
Did it disappear, Sarah?
It totally left. No, but I'll find it again. Welcome to, I'm walking my way into 40, by the way, and this shit happens all the time. And I feel like this is like a reason to start taking ginkgo or whatever it is you're supposed to take.
So I read somewhere the other day, it was like a meme or something, and it was like, I don't owe you my health.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Okay. Oh my God. See, I knew you and me. We're like this.
We're
like
synced.
This. Yeah.
We've got this.
So what I was going to say to you just now is that the conversation is made even one layer more complex, because in the society that we live in now, we equate health to worth. And so there are like multiple conversations that get smushed into one. So, not only are we saying, I deserve to love my body in whatever it looks like, whatever size it is, but I deserve to love my body in whatever state of health it's in. And unfortunately, in this society, we equate health with worth. And the number one way we think about that is fat. And I use that word on purpose, right? Because we absolutely have a prejudice and a bias against persons of size, almost to the point that they say it's sort of like one of the last unspoken biases, like socially acceptable biases out there. And let me just throw this out by saying I don't consider myself a fat advocate. What I consider myself as to be is however you want your body to be, that's your life. And whatever your goals are for your body, awesome, do it. I struggle very honestly with the idea of healthy at every size because I don't necessarily believe that that's possible. I believe that you can be healthy at many sizes, but your health really depends on your activity level, what you put in your body, what your mental health is, what your parents' health is, what your genetic, I mean, like there are so many different things. But in this day and age, we equate health to worth. So not only do people from diverse body journeys experience the challenge of finding identity in their body with what it looks like, but also with the judgment that other people put on them based on what that body is. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense.
It's like we need to separate these conversations, but we can't, and we end up smushing them all together. When we smush them together, like it's just it becomes impossible to deconstruct.
Yeah, it's almost like, we see somebody who doesn't fit the standard, because they are bigger. And so we assume that they have to be on a diet and that they have to be eating healthy because their goal is to look like what's more quote unquote normative. And if they're not doing that, then it's because they don't love themselves. It's because they don't value themselves. And there's that value judgment there. It's like you can't possibly love yourself if you're not trying to fit this standard.
Sure. And in response to that, I would say that loving yourself has to be the baseline for anybody, not anybody, but anybody, any color, shape, type, age, weight. Like loving yourself has to be the standard baseline to have body peace wherever you are, whether you want to be on a journey of wellness that addresses your health, whether you don't. Like none of those things are what matter to individuals, but like whatever you're going to do, it has to start with self-love. And when people come to me and they say, I want to go on a diet, and I say, okay, well, why? What do you think is going to happen when you lose 100 pounds? Like, and then usually they say something like, well, I'm going to be skinnier, or I'm going to get more guys, or like I'm going to be happier. And I'm like, okay, no, you have to work on whatever your shit is now. Because whatever stuff that is your pain to carry, whatever your lessons are to learn, like it doesn't matter where you go in your body. It doesn't matter where you move geographically or what job you take or what relationship you're in. Like I know I have tried to outrun my shit for like, I don't know how old. Yeah, 15, 17, 18, 19, 20 years, right?
Yeah.
You can change any external fast, quote unquote, fast fix in life, you can change. But if you're not willing to get really still and start picking apart and looking at the pain and the story with honesty, then there's no point in making a change, like your stuff will follow you. And that's that as a woman of size who's on a journey, that's one of the things that people say to me all the time is, well, I want to lose weight. And I'm like, awesome. Why? Tell me why. Like if you say, I want to lose weight because I need to take some of the pressure off my back, or I want to understand what is your motive, because if your motive is to chase some idea of happiness is not chaseable. It has to be created, and it's not created by being the end result of anything.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. I'm really glad that you shared that, because I think it can get very convoluted in people's minds about what happiness looks like and how we can achieve that happiness.
Yeah, and I think that happiness, we have to allow it to look like different things to different people. We have to give it grace, and the idea of achieving happiness, even that word, like, which I know you said, so fluently without any intent, without any challenge to it whatsoever. Like happiness is not something you achieve. Like you have to choose happiness. Like happiness is a critical, proactive choice that you have to make. And to me, when I talk about self-love, when I say self-love, I mean any action, any thought, anything you do, any idea, any belief that helps bring you closer to that aligned version of yourself is an act of self-love. And choosing happiness is an act of self-love. Waiting for it to happen to us, or waiting for us to get the 6-figure job, and like that will bring us, like, waiting doesn't make it happen.
Yeah.
I was so eloquent and I just farted the last part of that
No,
sentence.
I love that. I love that. And something that we talked about right before we started recording is the intersection between age and
Yes.
and your your relationship with your age, right? And how that's impacting you right now.
Absolutely.
And I would love to hear a little bit more about what you've been navigating.
Yeah. So one of the things that I feel super passionately about, and thank you for asking me that question, thank you, is that I truly feel that the wellness and personal growth industry does a really shitty job of bringing different bodies to the table. When you look out there and you look for work and you try and connect with brands, what you really see is the same person again and again. You see a slender, Caucasian, very fit, cisgender woman. Now, that's okay. I obviously have no problem with women or men of any kind, right? But what I do have a problem with is the fact that 67% of this women, 67% of women in this country are plus size. Over 20% are persons of color.
So wait, just pause there.
Mm-hmm.
If 67% of women are plus size, then shouldn't that just be size, and
yes.
the 33% of women be small size, right? Like, why are we?
Yeah, it's
interesting our language. Like, why are we making the majority of people are somehow plus?
Yeah,
when they're the majority, then that's normal.
Yeah.
And if you're smaller boned or if you have less fat on your body, then that should be the category.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an incredibly astute observation, and I think there are lots of different sides to that story. There are some people out there who say if we normalize larger bodies, then we're normalizing that it's okay to be obese. And then there are some people that kind of talk about marketing and what's it called? The expression that they use, ideal marketing. I forgot the expression. Sorry, guys, but there's an expression that in marketing where they take the most ideal, best, quote unquote, version of the person that would be using the product, and that's how they try to sell you. There are lots of different schools of thoughts, but there's no doubt in my mind that if persons of size or persons of color or able-bodiedness or anybody who would quote unquote fall outside of what the norm of what we see is, if we did not have more representation, then that would not create and breed more self-confidence and more self-worth, and that would create happier people, and that would create people who are probably more inclined to seek whatever the best version of them is. And I just feel that, like, just for reference, guys, I wear about a size 18, 20. Okay. When I began my journey, I was a size 28. So I was significantly larger. But most women that you see in wellness and personal growth, they're like a size 2 or like a size 4. Right. So although I am certainly an quote unquote, almost an average size woman, although probably not in like major metropolitan cities like New York, LA and stuff. I don't get to see myself mirrored in the brands or in media with the messages that I want. And I feel super, super strongly that we need to bring more bodies to the table. And one of the things that bugs me is when I see brands that don't want to speak to quote unquote older women. And like once you hit 30 or once you hit 35, you sort of like age out of relevance. And I kind of like want to shake brands. And first off, from like a business standpoint, say, don't you realize how much money you're leaving on the table by not talking to like women who are 40 plus? Like, who is actually spending money on your product? But besides that, like, tools belong to everybody. And as someone who works a little bit as an influencer, I find myself just sort of baffled all the time trying to connect with brands who, aren't maybe necessarily super open to connecting to me. And I try and wonder why. And I think about it. And, in the back of my head is always this idea, well, I'm turning 40 in about a month. That's, there aren't many people doing what I do who are 40 that are not Oprah. Right. So it's, I really feel super passionate about age diversity. We're all going to get older. Like, stop.
Yeah.
Like I wrote about this in a magazine once, and I said, women have been getting older for like thousands of years before your
Mm-hmm.
boobs started hitting gravity. Like hundreds of thousands of millions of other boobs have been hitting gravity for years. And
Yes.
and after you're gone, boobs will be doing the exact same thing. So
Yeah.
like, let's remove the idea that this is my personal journey and my personal shame, or your personal journey and your personal shame. But this is the human journey when
Yeah.
it comes to bodies and when it comes to aging and the fear of relevance. And I just, I feel really strongly that brands need to be doing more to create visibility, and we need to do more to create visibility. I mean, on the whole, in the general sense.
Yeah, I would love to hear like how you've been personally navigating this
Oh,
new phase, you know?
wow. Interesting question. The work that I do is, or when I work as an influencer, I'm always working with younger women. And the interesting part is, many of them have no idea that I'm turning 40. They always pull
Mm.
the, oh, you don't look that old. And I want to be like, hey, yeah, thanks. I think what I'm really trying to do is a couple of things. First is adjust what messaging I take in, adjust what versions of beauty I absorb.
I think that we need to just pause there because I think that that is so important. And this is something that I've made sure to highlight in the work with my clients, which is if you carry a marginalized identity, doesn't matter what that identity is, really look to see that you're being purposeful about what you're allowing in that
Yes,
supports that identity.
yes,
So, if you are just starting to wake up to your identity and it feels really uncomfortable and it's not part of the majority of the conversation, that's the brilliant thing about
yes,
Instagram is that you get
yes,
to choose who you follow. So
yes,
follow more people who are going to make you feel like you are
yes.
seen and
Yes.
represented.
Yeah, 120%. Curate your feed as if you would curate your self-talk.
Hands down.
And there is absolutely nothing wrong with looking at, quote unquote socially acceptable beautiful people, but I also know for me that I really want to see women who have wrinkles. I
Yes.
really want to see women who have natural gray hair. Like, so I have started to proactively curate what I look at and what I
Yes.
take in.
It
Um,
makes such
it
a
makes a
difference.
really big difference. And like you're saying, like, it may be harder to find those people, but they are out there.
Yeah.
There are, women and men of every color, every body ability, every disability, every shade, every age, that are out there putting out meaningful content. And so many of them will never have large platforms, but that doesn't mean their journey isn't relevant and cannot teach you something. So also, like, remove the idea that the numbers that you see on a social media feed like immediately make that person a quote unquote better person.
Hands down.
Like do what serves you. And I have even started like lovingly muting and unfollowing people whose feeds don't work for me anymore. And that's
Hmm.
okay. I also think that I am super proactively trying to adjust my sense of self and life and worth, uh, from quantity to deliberate quality.
Mm.
So I may say less or I may do less, but I am so deeply honed and focused on authenticity that if it's not authentic, I don't have room for it right now. And if people don't get that, I have to release their acceptance from me, from like the weight of my brain. And I think that is something that has become easier for me as I've gotten older. I've been becoming less apologetic about what I know I am and less apologetic about what I care about producing and doing and saying. Um, but I think it's deliberate. We have to
Yeah.
be deliberate and conscious and do the work in whatever that looks like for us. Honor ourselves, follow the
Yeah.
self-love, because, bath bombs are great, but bath bombs are not going to help you look at your shit. Like think
I
beyond the bath bomb.
I think the more identities we carry that society wants to make us invisible about
Mm,
is the identities that we need to be reclaiming the most, you
yeah.
know? And so
Yeah.
I love that you, someone who is so visible, is really using the identities that you're stepping into, like the identity of being an older woman, and
Yeah.
you're reclaiming it, and you're being willing to be seen. And that's so inspiring for so
Thank
many
you.
people. And I know that it's difficult because it's so hard to be seen. It's so hard to take a stay. We believe the invisibility narrative, and it's we want to we believe in it. We want to collapse in it. We get activated in our worthiness wound. We want to hide. And so seeing people like you, it's just a reminder that it is possible for all of us.
Thank you. And what I say is I say this all the time. It's not me. I'm just willing to talk about it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a couple things that I'm willing to do that other people aren't. So again, when people say, well, how can I do what you do in your life? I say, you can do every single fucking thing that I do. You have to be willing to do it.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. And most people want change, but they don't want to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And if I say anything in the last couple of years, I have gotten really good at being really uncomfortable. and that's where it comes from. And also I'm comfortable talking because I know that in my talking, it makes it safer for somebody else. So
Mm-hmm.
if that's kind of like the thing that I can do, like if that's the way I can serve and be of use and be of purpose, then like, fuck it. Like, why would I not do that? Because the people who are following me now, like, and even those who are 10 or 15 years younger than me, in 5 years down the line, like, we're all going to age and we're all going to relate. And the idea of change is going to happen to us all. And change doesn't stop until we're not here. So there's like never an end to what we can explore together with vulnerability if
Yeah.
we're willing to do it.
So I would love to know just a little bit about your background story,
Yeah.
and how you kind of started to step into this visibility to begin with. Do you feel like you've always been
No.
have proclivity for being
No.
seen?
No. I love it. No, absolutely not. And to put it in perspective, I was an opera singer in college, and so that
Okay,
should
whoa.
yeah, literally.
That's amazing.
Yeah, but that should show you that I didn't want to be seen as myself. I wanted to perform as someone else.
Mm.
So my background is in marketing and PR with a focus on products and services for women. So people always get a big kick about this, but I used to do the marketing for Chippendales in Las Vegas many years ago. Many years ago. And then I spent many years working in women's plus size fashion. And it was when I started working in women's plus size fashion that I started to
Or you mean normal fashion? Oh no, I'm sorry.
yeah. In size 14 and above. How's that? I started noticing, because I was a face for the brand and I was sort of communicating under their label. And I started seeing that people really related to what I was talking about. I was sharing the story. And I will never forget this day. I don't know, it might have been like 2013. I don't know, something like that. And I was sitting with a photographer and he said, Sarah, if you really want to make a difference in life, your Instagram profile and your like Facebook profile, you have to be willing to be public. And I was like, ew, icky, like, ew, who wants that? Why would I want that? And he's like, okay, fine. But if you really want to serve, then like, that's what you have to do. And so for me, I just started talking. I started storytelling, which is what I've always been comfortable doing. I started telling these stories from my own life about intimacy and bodies and sex and self-worth and clothes, and doing it with like heart and humor and like rip your gut out all at the same time. And I just started getting really comfortable doing that. And there came a point in my life where I had a couple of sort of big watershed experiences and things that happened, but where it became apparent to me that I needed change in my life on a very visceral, deep, holistic level. And I just made the decision and I said, if I need this change so badly now at 37 and my work life stinks and my love life stinks and I can tell my body is unhealthy and I can tell I'm unhappy, then like how many other women at 37 feel the exact same as me? So maybe I should talk about it. That's a good idea. So I started talking about it, and like honestly, truly organically, the more I started sharing and doing, the more passionate I became, and the more organically this became purpose, until I just sort of turned around and I said, yeah, you're a teacher. And this is like the perfect storm with Marky Mark and George Clooney and The Wave, except it's your life. And it's not Marky Mark, George Clooney, and The Wave. You know, what I'm doing now is a marriage between actual, authentic journey for me of creating happier and healthier life, like something I really need to do for myself. Two, it merges my background and my skills in marketing and writing and content. And three, it's also my purpose. Like, it's also my passion. So it's like the perfect storm of kind of like awesomeness that I just fell into in one. And like, I'm kind of like willing to be broken, financially unstable right now because I'm having the greatest fucking time figuring shit out and just like knowing in my heart that yeah, okay, you're doing what you should be doing and the rest will all fall into place as it needs to.
Yeah. So for women who are wanting to get more visible, who are wanting to put themselves out there more, and they hold, you know, marginalized identities that make it feel like they're going to be very ostracized, judged. I mean, the comments that I see, you know, women receive online. I mean, it doesn't matter what they, I mean, it
sucks.
It sucks. Yeah. How do you, because the answer that kind of the world gives is toughen up, you know, get a thicker skin, you know, and I feel like that also in many ways is in alignment with us women. We are sensitive, we are empathetic, and toughening up, I don't know, it doesn't land with me. So I'm just curious what you found to be supportive for you.
Okay, that's a beautiful question. The answer is not to toughen up. The answer is to feel, but to put it in perspective and to ride the wave. Because unfortunately, right now, if you are a woman on the internet and you want to have some sort of a public platform, you are going to be open to intense criticism from people who actually care nothing about you. They actually do not know who you are, do not care who you are, do not want to know. They just want to put their shit on you. And I joke that, like, I am a blonde person of size, and I lovingly say, I could be any other blonde fat woman. Like, we're all interchangeable. Like, nobody cares. Like, it's not, to people who want to share negativity with us, it doesn't matter. So first off, I would say, unless you feel called to serve and share, you are allowed to protect yourself, and you are allowed to treasure and honor yourself and remain step back. And you can serve in your own life without being public. You can embody and teach and serve without doing that. If you do want to take a step into a little bit more of a public view, put it in perspective. Recognize that for every person who says something nasty, there are however many hundreds of thousands or 10 or 20 other people who you've touched who will never, ever say anything to you. Recognize that it's a beautiful opportunity to say how other people want to put their shit on me is not a reflection of me. Recognize that this is part of a communal experience and you are not alone in this experience. And there is this sort of bizarrely bonded sisterhood of women that can all understand what it feels like to be on the other end. But don't read the comments. Never read the comments. No, on your own page, yes, but we bloggers like to joke. None of us ever read the comments on like when anybody else posts their stuff. We don't read the comments, but practice grace for yourself.
Yeah,
just again and again and again and again. And if you want to cry, just cry. Go on and do that. Like, the answer is not to tough it up. The answer is to see it and put it in its place and know, because you know what makes you you, and what makes you empathetic and beautiful, and what fuels you to serve is the hugeness of the heart that you have. And
Yes.
don't turn that off, and don't let somebody else being an asshole on the internet stop you from being as wholehearted as you are, because they will try. And the more they try, the more that means you are saying something that somebody needs to hear.
Yes.
So I am not saying that it's easy. It is hard. It is really hard. But you get better at navigating it with time.
Yeah.
You get better at navigating it.
It's really heartbreaking how normalized trolling has become. It's become just like something that we expect, that we know it's going to inevitably happen. And, you know, I know Lindy West talks about this in her book Shrill, that how tired she is of the normalization of trolling, and how we've made it sound like, oh, but it's just the internet. Like, that's just what happens. But that's not very far from the argument of, oh, that's just locker room talk. That's just how boys are.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know. I just keep thinking about the objectification of women, the fetishization of women,
oh, honey. Oh, I'm sorry. I just went, oh, honey. I got all like Sally Jesse on you. Yeah, well, I mean, so here's the thing is that you really want to talk fetishization of women. Try being a large woman on the internet. You know, being a woman on the internet is challenging in general, but the amount of fetish talk that comes at me every day, like there are lots of different types of low vibe sort of talk, right? You know, you have sort of passive aggressive people who are like, oh, you're awesome, but there's no way you can be healthy, like blah blah blah, right? Health concern, health trolling. That's
like they're so concerned.
Yeah, you're so concerned for my health. I know.
Like, why is okay, pause right there.
Yeah.
Why is everyone so obsessed with everyone else's health?
Because they don't want to deal with their own shit.
Like, what is that? Like, what is it anyone's business?
Yeah, no, here's the thing.
You put in your mouth, what you do, how you move your body, it blows my mind.
Because truly balanced people who are at a balanced place with themselves don't comment on other people's shit.
True.
Like, so, you know, if somebody's commenting on my shit, and it's either, you know, it's not positive or neutral, that's like a reflection of them and their journey and whatever stuff they're bringing to the table. And we live in a culture where it's sort of like gladiatorial, where, you know, we sort of reward people for chiming in. And, you know, you have health trolls that are sort of passive aggressive, and, you know, you think they mean well, but, you know, they don't. And then you have, just sort of the really mean, nasty people, you know, who call you names and say terrible things, and they suck. And then you have the entire tsunami of fetish people who just fetishize your body and send you unsolicited dick pics and say like, fatty good wife, fuck you. Like, I go on Instagram lives all the time, and like, I could be sitting there crying and talking about not having children, and there will be some guy on there that's like, ooh, good fatty, show boobs, nice ass. And I'm sitting there in a turtleneck with my hair in a messy bun, crying about being 39 and how I come to grips with being single and not having kids. And they're like, want to fuck? And it's just crazy. Yeah. Welcome to the internet.
I would love to hear like your thoughts around, I don't want to say why, because we know why, but your perspective on what is that? Like, what is that fetishization? You know, what do you think the underlying current is? And
power.
Just to add, yeah.
Oh, sorry, you were going to say something. Yeah, so many interesting responses to that. I think that we've created a culture where people have been so desensitized to how they relate to others that people no longer filter themselves, you know?
That power, that's it, right? That's it. It's just...
Well, yeah. I mean, look, I know that a large majority of the men who comment on me in a fetishized way are not from the United States, and they're not native, they're not English speaking. And there's a very interesting power dynamic in the male-female cultural relationships and stuff in the countries that they come from. And I also think that men in general on the internet, behind the anonymity of not being able to be seen, just feel very, very free. I'll never forget the first time somebody posted on a picture of me, like, so something beyond the "you're so sexy" kind of thing. It felt like sexually violent. And like, it actually freaked me out. Like, now, do I think this person would actually like do that in person? No. Do I think that this person would walk up to me and physically attack me? No. Do I think this person said some really physically, sexually violent stuff that was just like about bending me over and giving it to me certain ways? And I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. What kind of entitlement do you have to come into this? It's my space, it's public, but come into this space and talk to a stranger in this way and think that that's okay. Just beyond the "you're so attractive," but like, I remember I screen capped that and I sent that to a friend of mine, and I was shaking. Like, I was shaking. I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah. And this is why it is no wonder that we believe in the protection of invisibility, right? We believe that if we are invisible, if we get skinnier, if we change something about ourselves, then we'll be protected. And so it feels very exposing and vulnerable to own these parts of ourselves that are so objectified and fetishized in our society. But I think what I see with you and your work that I find is so beautiful is that you're just owning it, and you're not letting you're not letting other people define you. You're not letting those narratives define you anymore. You're saying, fuck invisibility. I'm not going to believe that narrative.
Yeah. I mean, thank you. I think that anybody out there who tells you that they feel strong and confident and aligned all the time is full of shit, right?
Absolutely.
Because
yeah.
we're not.
Except for me, Sarah. Except for
me.
you.
Yeah, except for you. You
whoa,
you are there. Whoa, sorry.
All the time.
But and that's why, by the way, that's why I unfollow quite a lot of social accounts, because anybody who's so perfect all the time, I'm like, and especially if I know them in real life, I'm like, I know that this is bullshit. Like, how? I can't. But that's why I try to tell people that strength does mean you allow yourself to be knocked off the pedestal sometimes. Not the pedestal. You allow yourself to be knocked off course sometimes, and you come back. The strength is in the returning. The strength is not in the perfection. The strength is in the commitment to coming back to center again and again and again. And
with
I
as
try
much
and
compassion
tell people that
as possible.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, we knock ourselves off. Other people will knock us off. Health will knock us off. But like, life will continually knock us off. And if we believe that the only way to experience it and be quote unquote good is to be on our shit all the time, there's no way we're going to have grace. And especially as a woman who people can see getting healthier, and that reduces, that shows with my body size reducing as well. I need to show people as well that wellness doesn't just mean the size of my dress changing. And in fact, sometimes I may gain 15 pounds, but I'm also spending 5 months learning how to navigate something really difficult without using a single coping mechanism. So I try and show people that commitment to self and commitment to your own growth and actualization and wellness and love ebbs and flows in what it looks like. And we have, like, the greatest thing we can give ourselves is the grace to ebb and flow along with our own life.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I've talked a lot, but you've asked me such good questions.
Well, no, I so appreciate that. And any final thoughts, anything else before we wrap up that you want people to hear?
Wow. No, I want to just sort of shine a little light on you for a moment, because I think you are so thoughtful and so deliberate and so graceful, and man, like, you are really doing beautiful work. And I want to thank you for asking non-traditional, challenging questions. Like, I just want to thank you for all of it, because I see you and I observe you, and you inspire me personally. And I think that you're doing really great stuff. So to anybody who's listening, my simple reminder, it's not simple, it's, pretty deep, but it's basic sounding, is that it doesn't matter how much you weigh, it doesn't matter how old you are, it doesn't matter however broken you feel you are from the things that you've done in the past. If you woke up today, then you have a chance to create a greater version of yourself if you are willing to do the work. And any work that you do, any growth that you make, any change, any journey must come from a place of radical, beautiful, unyielding self-love.
Yeah.
And the phrase that I say to people, and I've kind of adopted this in my motto, and I tried to trademark, man, but they won't trademark curse words, but one day they will, is I stand, you stand, and together we rise the fuck up. And
Yes.
that is my hope. So think how you can stand so that you create space for other people to stand, so that you can all rise together. Think how you can stand in your own life for yourself so that you can rise. Think about how you can connect and serve and be authentic and show up.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for that. That was really beautiful. I appreciate you so much.
Mwah, thank you so much.